when people don't, so for me, if you followed us, we've dealt with the Master P's, we've dealt with so many different, celebrities throughout the years. And one of the things that I really hate is the obstacle that I've had to overcome is that when your hopes get built up so high and then everything gets snatched from up under you and everything falls down and crumbles, and you're restarting over and over again because you're really placing your hope on what people told you. And so, because a lot of that, that's all we have to go on, is what somebody tells us. I've been dependent, most of my life on a word that somebody has given me, and then if they say that they're going to do something, my mind goes into activation mode. So I'm creating and building and doing all the stuff I'm doing only for the platform to be snatched from up under you because of somebody else's agenda. And so that's been my biggest thing to be able to overcome. A guy sit down with me one day. He said, and this is just one specific example. A guy came to me. He said, "Look, I got $1 million for Heal the Hood." I was like, "What?"
Hey there, I'm back with another episode of So Success Stories. And today I'm talking to my friend LaDell Beamon. And LaDell is the founder, CEO, and executive director in all things Heal the Hood Foundation. So LaDell and I met years ago, probably close to 20 years ago, when he doing the work that he was doing, and he was personally trying to help me and my son. And then I really appreciate that. I can't even remember exactly how we met, but I'm so glad that we did. And it's been a blessing to see you on your journey and the work that you're doing through Heal the Hood Foundation. So LaDell, tell us a little bit more about yourself and tell us a little bit more about Heal the Hood Foundation.
Well, first of all, thank you, Miss Summer, for having me. Always appreciative. And, I saw you on CNN or something like that, and it made me want to reach out to you because when I heard your story, and it's like, so that was a huge part of how I first met you, me reaching out to you, because I was just so proud of your boldness, and your truth, that you were standing in, and I just when I saw your story, I was like, to have that type of courage, that did something to me, and so yeah, that's how we met. And
Okay, thank you.
and so your resilience, has always been amazing to me. And so for me, as far as Heal the Hood, the background of where we are and how I feel like there's some connection. For me, Heal the Hood Foundation of Memphis, now started there, is a arts-based organization, that uses the arts in media science to enact change in Memphis and surrounding areas. And it impacted me. Heal the Hood impacts me and calls me to service because being in the situation that I grew up in, and so I didn't have access to the arts. I didn't have access to a whole lot of different things. But when I came into contact at a young age with the arts, it changed my trajectory. And so we use it every day, to be able to reach other kids that feel like they have all these different barriers and they have to overcome it. And so so basically it's just like, so what? So what? I'm in this situation or I have these obstacles against me, but there is hope because I can overcome that. And so that's what we do through the arts, is being able to give kids those opportunities to overcome whatever those obstacles are.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about you.
So, single parent home. I was born. I'm a native Memphian. People often don't believe that for whatever reason, and believe it or not, born and raised in the inner city, South Memphis. Single parent home. Just a lot of different things. I grew up around gang members. Grew up around the whole 9 yards. As a matter of fact, four of the guys that was in my neighborhood ended up being on America's Most Wanted. And so that's to kind of tell you how the atmosphere was, back then. And so literally got my start with going to Colonial. Even though I stayed in South Memphis, I would travel and go to Colonial to get myself out of that situation. So I picked up clarinet and started doing music. Had to have a private clarinet instructor. So I spent a lot of time in the creative and performing arts, going from Colonial creative and performing arts to Overton creative and performing arts. Met a lot of different celebrities, did a lot of acting coming up, and that's what really kind of sent me on my trajectory of expanding my mind. I used to hear Bishop Brandon Porter say something very powerful. He said, once a person's mind has been expanded, it can no longer be reduced to its former state. And so you're looking at somebody who would go into, who was born and raised in the inner city, but my mind was bigger than that. So every time I came back, it was like trying to put everything I learned into a box that was too small to be able to hold everything. And so now you see what's happening with me is it's like I'm bursting out of the seams because I'm trying to figure out where to put all this because I've been waiting for a long time to do it. So my early start in the inner city and being exposed to other things is what developed me into Heal the Hood right now to what I'm doing with Heal the Hood.
Well, it's amazing the things that you're doing with Heal the Hood and your heart and your passion behind it. And everybody knows about you and knows about Heal the Hood and the impact that you've made. So I actually I remember also you sharing a story about youth passing.
Yeah.
And so talk even just a little bit about that because I know that's a big part of the reason why you started Heal the Hood and it's such a serious serious reason. So talk
You
about
have an
that.
amazing memory. so so for us, when I was back when the work started before I started, an official not for profit. I didn't even know what a not for profit was. I was just acting, traveling up and down the East Coast, acting in passion plays when I was real young, getting out of high school. And by the time I was 19, I was thrusted into an after school program. The lady told me, she said, Carolyn Bibbs with Creative Life Incorporated, she started the after school program and she put me at the helm of it. So she just tossed me in there with some flyers and said, recruit some students. So I recruited the students and I ended up getting this one young man. We only had one classroom, but we had so many students till they had to give us another classroom to hold the overflow. And so I got this one young man that was amazing. And in the process of building this relationship with him, he disappeared. And I didn't know what happened to him. And then Christmas came the following year, and he popped up when we were packing down, and he said, "Look," he said, "I had to go off the Job Corp to get my life together." And I'm like, "You're only 15 years old. What are you talking about? Get your life together?" I knew nothing of kids being involved to the level that he was involved in the whole gang culture. He was embedded in that culture, and I didn't even know it. But we were traveling, and he wanted to be a part of that art side of us. So he was like, "Look, when I get back from Job Corp in the summer, I need you to pick me up. We're gonna have a great time. We're gonna sing some of them songs we used to sing and all this good stuff." And I was like, "Okay, all right, Marvin." I said, "We're gonna do that." And so he never made it back to Job Corp in Virginia because they found him on Farrow Street in South Memphis in an abandoned house with his brains blown out through the back of his head. And the community, they couldn't find out who killed Marvin Robinson. And the community, they airbrushed these T-shirts. We love Marvin Robinson, and they were just parading with the T-shirts every day. And 2 weeks later, his murderer stepped forward, and it was his best friend because his best friend felt like Marvin was leaving him because he was trying to better his life, and he wasn't keeping the code of the Crips, and so he killed him. And that is what drove me into because a lot of these kids, society, the wrong music, beefing, the wrong atmosphere is influencing their thoughts, and they don't really understand what real love is. They have this false definition of it. And so we got a lot of Black people that are killing Black people because they have a false sense of what's been programmed into them about what love really is. And so that's the thing which led me on that path. And so every kid, every audience, even though I don't have any biological kids, every kid I look at is a potential Marvin Robinson if I don't do something about it. And so that's still, decades later, inside of me.
Yeah. So that is the work and the why the work is so important because every kid is a potential Marvin and like every kid is a potential his friend too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I admire you and I respect you tremendously and your heart is so evident in the work that you do. And the results are there too. And the results are there too. It's just still so much work to do. It's so much work to do. So I applaud you and I support you and I want to get into your story. I really want to get into your story. So LaDell, in this program, I have what I call the SOA success system. It's my belief that anyone, if they can learn how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices, they can have so much success. And that is success no matter what happens in life.
Yeah.
And LaDell, you've had a journey. You have had a journey. You are definitely a so a success man. So first, let's talk about obstacles. Talk about some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome to get to where you are today.
I'll tell you, one of the things that I would say is when people don't. So for me, if you followed us, we've dealt with the Master P's, we've dealt with so many different celebrities throughout the years, and one of the things that I really hate is the obstacle that I've had to overcome is that when your hopes get built up so high and then everything gets snatched from up under you and everything falls down and crumbles and you're restarting over and over again because you're really placing your hope on what people told you. And so, because a lot of that, that's all we have to go on, is what somebody tells us. I've been dependent, most of my life on a word that somebody has given me, and then if they say that they're going to do something, my mind goes into activation mode. So I'm creating and building and doing all the stuff I'm doing only for the platform to be snatched from up under you because of somebody else's agenda. And so that's been my biggest thing to be able to overcome. A guy sit down with me one day. He said, and this is just one specific example. A guy came to me. He said, "Look, I got $1 million for Heal the Hood." I was like, "What?" And I was so excited because at this point, you like, I can help these kids. I can help the staff. We can do this, and we were just so excited. And this was before the Hero Empowerment Center came online. What we wanted to do with the building, and so here it is. The guy's promising, and that he's gonna give $1 million, and I'm gonna give a preference to this. He was a Caucasian male, an older Caucasian male, and so I'm like, okay, he gonna keep his word. It's gonna be all right. And so he has this guy, a black guy, that comes in and tells me, yeah, he gonna do this and do that. Just go ahead and trust him on that. So we were meeting, and the guy looks at me and he says, look. He said, I've seen everything that Heal the Hood has done. We're gonna use your body of work. We're gonna do all of this different stuff. And what I want to do with you is we got $1 million for you. We're gonna use 1 million for for the project, and we're gonna give your organization $1 million. I was like, okay, that we're ready. And so we were at the table, and he looked at me and he said, "You're gonna think I'm a sellout for telling you this, but the whole reality show, as a matter of fact, um, this was a show that we wanted you on there to be one of the guests. I remember, and I can say one of the names of the people that's involved, Vincent Price, because we wanted to collect stories of people like you. It was like a reality show. It was called Do Something. I don't even know if you remember doing. It's called Do Something, and we were going to grab people, and you were one of the people that we were going to grab to talk about overcoming and resilience and what you're doing. So it was highlighting all these African Americans that had gone through adversity, and it was like a positive version of a reality show. And so the guy was going to fund it, man. He told me, he said, look, you don't think I'm a sellout, but what we're going to do is we're going to get a white guy, middle-aged white guy, to drive to different inner cities in his Jaguar, pull up on black kids and say, do you want a Jaguar like this? Well, this is how you can have it. And he flipped the whole narrative to the putting around this white guy in a Jaguar driving around cities, and he wanted me to relinquish all of these different kids and people like yourself that would have been great examples of resilience and what it looks like for us as African Americans to be able to overcome. And he wanted me to sign everything over to him for $1 million. And I looked at him and I said, I can't do this. I knew we needed the funding, but my integrity was at stake, and I had to sacrifice the money to maintain integrity. That was a real hard
I can
journey.
imagine. I can imagine. Talk about how you, because I know, look, since I run a nonprofit, we talked about that before, and funding is always the challenge, especially when your heart wants to grow, not
Yeah.
just for growth, but because of the impact that you need to make. I can imagine that being a challenge. Talk about turning that down and overcoming that obstacle because you're still here today and you are still making an impact. So obviously you overcame that. Talk about how you dealt with that.
Yeah, even though it seems like it's been a lot of letdowns, we were, I'll tell you something that was very positive. Every time something atrocious would be happening in the background, there would be something that would come almost instantaneously because during that same time, Master P, his daughter, he literally wanted to bring his daughter to Memphis to expose her to the Memphis culture, symphony. And we did this huge thing during that time where we were able to produce this music video called I'm All That. Symphonique, I was able to grab Symphonique, who was a Nickelodeon star, grab Symphonique, grabbed at that time Lil Peanut, who was just a little small kid. We grabbed all of them, and I literally casted all that video with 29 dancers, Taryn Gary, that you guys know from the Memphis Grizzlies, her dancers. We got to her studio, got Master P in there, we got to work, got those girls ready, and got Lil Peanut recorded his verse to the song in Ice Gibson's recording studio. Yeah, everybody packaged together, and that video went on to be nominated 2 years in a row for Video of the Year. With Symphony Miller, 29 dancers from the Memphis, from Subculture Royalty from Taryn, and Lil Peanut ended up getting a Nickelodeon deal, which led him to getting the role of Atticus in Happy Feet 2. So now he's in Your Honor that was on Netflix. He's been in Transformers, all these different things. And I can literally sit up and look at the body of work of the success things that people don't even know that we're behind. And so when we're sitting down and educating people, we can pull up all of this stuff and tell kids and tell people that we know a formula that can get you there without compromising. And here's a proven concept that it works. And so I'm excited, about stuff like that.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So talk about the second part of the So It's Success is eliminating excuses. So we talked about, you having to growing up in Memphis, growing up in a single parent home, and you starting this nonprofit and the challenges that you had to face with that. You could have made some excuses, you could have given up, you could have done a lot of different things, but talk about some of the excuses you had to eliminate and just how you did that.
So we have done multi-million-dollar work with a shoestring budget. And what activates that is, kids like your Marvin Robinson. We had another. I'm a, this is now watch this excuse. There was a kid that his mom asked me. She said, "I need you to mentor my son because I believe he's in this relationship with this girl. I don't want to get the girl pregnant. He's 15 years old. He said I need you to really talk to my son." So I'm like, okay. And so that particular day, and like some I get overwhelmed so much, and sometimes I just forget stuff. I feel like, man, what? And it's like, and so the parent called me that day, and she said, "Say, remember you supposed to be meeting me?" And I said, "Oh, that's right." And so I had put my car in the shop. So she wanted me to meet her at a community center, Riverview Community Center. I got on my bicycle, rode my bicycle 4 miles to where no 5 miles to where she was, and I had my cell phone on the bike. Got over there. She said, "Is this you on this red bike?" I said, "Yeah, it's me." And he said, "I'm sitting over here in this brown car." I'm like, okay. She said, "Well, you can get in the car with me." Okay, first time meeting the parent. I get in the car with the parent. I've never told this story live either. I get in the car with the parent, and she's looking around. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Because it sounds like she just kept looking back and forth. But she's telling me the story of her son and all that. And she said, "I just want to know, do you have the capacity to be able to mentor my son?" I said, "Well, ma'am, I had a young man who ended up getting killed. And this is not Marvin, this is a whole nother kid. He got killed because our center in South Memphis ended up being closed down, and he was looking for us 2 weeks before he got murdered. So when I did the research and found out who murdered him, it was this guy named D. And I'm like, okay, so the guy named D had been murdered as well by another kid. I'm in this circle with all these kids that shot him in his back. And then I said, but D murdered the kid who I was mentoring. And she said, so you talking about Desmond?" I said, "Yeah." And then she said, "You know what?" She said, "That was my son." So her son murdered my mentee. And one of my former dancers' brothers murdered her son. And this is so crazy. I'm telling. So while I'm sitting in the car, the woman is confessing, and she said one of the worst things for me was to be able to house a murder. And I was feeding the murder. I kept telling him to turn himself in, and he had killed AJ, my mentee. So the son that she wanted me to mentor was the brother who had the brother of the gentleman who had murdered my mentee. And a week before that, the school, Carver High School, somebody was shooting over at the high school. I just happened to be over at the high school and they had locked the school down. Well, come to find out, the reason why she kept looking around was because her son that she wanted me to mentor, he had stolen the Hispanic gang, stolen their dope money. And so they were chasing him, shooting bullets that were traveling through concrete. Hear me. The bullets were traveling through concrete and she wanted me to mentor her son and they knew who she was, so that's the reason why she kept looking back and forward. So I'm sitting up here in the heart of danger. These are stories that people don't get. They see the newscast but they don't get the. I'm sitting up here in the heart of danger, can lose my life risking it to save a kid whose brother had murdered my mentee. And so my grandmother, when I grew up with her, she raised 8 kids of her own from a wheelchair. She was handicapped her whole life, and 26 foster kids from a wheelchair. That woman would change around the whole house by herself when she was there. I would come from school, and when I saw that, it eliminated every excuse that I could make as a man that was in great physical condition to be able to overcome those odds, being from South Memphis, a single parent home, my dad not being in place, and then being able to try to reach the kids that are unreachable, even when their parents are tripping. So eliminating excuses and barriers to get to where we are right now, we own 7.02 acres of land that was gifted to us. And I've never managed property like that a day before in my life. We're experiencing challenges now, but everything that God has put in our life, every hurdle that has happened, it was to make our calf muscles strong so that we could jump higher. And so now we can jump a whole lot higher now because we eliminated the barriers that are in front of us by saying it's people that went through worse than what we went through. And so that's yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
So I'm smiling, but my heart is breaking because I know the reality of what you're talking about. But I'm just happy that you're doing the work, that you're pushing through and doing the work, and that you have eliminated those excuses. And you already know the whole grandma part, how special the grandmas are, and what your grandma instilled in you, and how powerful that is, and how look, there's my book on my grandmas, and just how important that is. So LaDell, yeah, thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for, and as this is, my mind is already like, we got to collaborate. We got to collaborate. So, some more. The third part of So a Success System is calculating choices. And so you have been pivoting and adjusting and living with disappointment and having to overcome. And you've made a lot of choices along the way. So talk about some of those calculated choices that you've made.
One was, here recently, we had a July 25th, we had a massive flood that happened here in the Hickory Ridge Mall, and it happened in the midst of summer camp. And when it happened, it was the day before summer, the day before the last day of summer camp. It was storming outside, and it felt like it was storming inside. You saw water just, and it was a huge story. I mean, because the water was about this high, and it flowed out of our spot into the rest of the mall, this high. And you were gushing water. We were trying to save equipment. Kids were rushing, trying to say, "We got what's going to happen to our center?" They grabbing all this stuff. So in between that time and now, our kids have been displaced because we had to take the kids to Hickory Ridge Middle School, and shout out to them for opening up the doors at Hickory Ridge Middle School for us to be able to have our program. And so, in the midst of all of that, still not having insurance and things being given to us that were supposed to happen, we get a letter about almost a month ago now that said that we have to be out of here by March 1st. And so at that point in time, we had to get into gear because we have 10 years of our life invested all throughout this building. And so how do you grab all of that stuff, uproot, and pivot on a dime? And I'm talking about when I got sick a couple of weeks ago, it's like all this was happening and having to pivot on the dime, pack up all this different stuff, and being able to move to another spot. And so what ended up happening, because we have great relationships with amazing people, they were talking about us in our favor. And while I was like sleeping out, and I tell people, I'm not saying God puts sickness on you, but He allows certain things to happen so that you can digress so he can increase. And that's what ended up happening. I digressed, he increased, people went to work, and we're getting a contract on a brand new spot that's much larger than all of this. And we were packing we were packing Saturday, and that's really what got us to a point now that we're moving into a new space. We're going to invite you, Summer, to our ribbon cutting, because it's happening, and people out of the woodworks are donating money and giving. And so what made me really be able to start seeing and thinking about reason and logic is because a lot of the genius that people think that we have, even from the comic books to the action figures, all the stuff that we created, it was a subplot to a much larger story. It was a subplot. And so now everything that I have done creatively throughout the relationships that I built, the music I made, the movies we've done, the programs and relationships, it stacked us up to strategically be able to move. One of the things that we're moving into as well, and I can loosely talk about it now, but there's a particular theater that has been dormant for a minute. And because of that, we have a very prominent figure that moved to Memphis about 3.5 years ago, who's responsible for bringing in the young rock into Memphis, which brought about $40 million into the Memphis economy. He has adopted us. He's loving on us. And there's some strategy that's about to happen in the next 4 to 5 months that's getting ready to take Memphis to a whole nother level, especially in this area in Hickory Hill. And it's the moves that we're making that are calculated risk to some people. I call it calculated risk because it's faith. You know, you're taking everything that you have and you're betting it on the future. And so I believe that everything that we've done, from working with Terrence Howard in the last couple of years to working with, Michael John White, Keenan Ivory Wayans, Robert Townsend, all of these different things have been strategies that's a lot. And these people that I'm talking about, they came from adverse situations just like we did. And so when you align yourself with people who understand success, but they understand the lows and they understand that creative gifted that it takes to make it to the next level, because they went through it, they've been there, they got the t-shirt, they said so what, and they kept pushing. Now we're getting ready to take that concept down the street in the next few weeks into a new renovated space. So yeah.
I'm just so happy for you. I'm so happy for you. I'm happy for the community and the kids and the people who are going to benefit from the hard work that you have invested your whole life into. And I thank God too for the favor that you have for these relationships, and your view on the challenges and how, because I love it. Like, I love when a person, that's why I do what I do, when a person can embrace a challenge and see how it actually was working in their favor. How it's working in their favor. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited about the new location. You know I'm gonna be at the ribbon cutting.
Yes, ma'am.
You know I'm there, and I'm excited about, my wheels are turning. My wheels are really turning on some more stuff that we're gonna do together, for sure, for sure.
I'm excited.
I am too. Okay, so LaDell, you know how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices. You have come from challenges personally and professionally, and you've even overcome trauma and witnessed trauma and helped other people through trauma. You are a success man. But how do you personally define success?
When you can take your when you can repurpose your pain. So and I say that as far as repurposing pain, because a lot of times people put they hang their success hat on money, they hang their success hat on how many degrees they have, they hang their success on how many all these celebrities or whatever. When I tell kids my greatest strength is being able to take my pain and repurpose it and seeing the result of that, that's how I can really start measuring levels of success. Because in the last, we've been through enough in the beginning of this year to really say we're gonna give up, because it's been so much. It was like calamity after calamity, and a lot of people that were at the helms of the calamity, you would never thought these people would have done the things that they did. And so because of that, you have to repurpose that pain. You have to be able to smile and celebrate instead of hate and retaliate. And so that's been my thing, to be able to measure success levels, is that seeing yourself being able to plummet forward instead of regress back when you've met great obstacles and great trials and tribulations. And so that's where we are right now, repurposing pain. We got stuff that hadn't this years old that hadn't been released yet, and certain things that when we release, people think y'all just went in the studio and did that, or you just did that. It's been things that have been designated for such a time as this, and it all came because we repurposed pain. So that's been our thing.
I
How we
want to
can.
say it again. I want to say it again because that's me. This is my life, repurposing pain. Repurposing pain. So you say that, it hits me like, ooh, ooh, ooh.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
good because everything about this and that is repurposing pain. And I just want to say it again, not for me and not for you, but for whoever's watching
Mm,
this.
yeah.
But for whoever is watching this, is that we all have pain and we have all experienced lots of different things. Lots of different things. But how can we say, so what? And repurpose it and make it into something beautiful. Make it into something beautiful like you have done. And not just beautiful, that's life changing, life saving work. And that's what you've done, LaDell. That's what you've done. That's a beautiful definition of success. I have one last question for you. So you've given lots of advice, lots of tips, lots of nuggets throughout this entire interview. But what is one piece of advice, and I'm going to say targeted to the youth because that's who you mainly focus on. One piece of advice you would leave someone watching this that wants to be successful, and let's say successful in repurposing their pain, because that's not easy. You and I are saying it, you and I have done it, but we know that it's not easy to do. What's one piece of advice that you would give to do that, to be able to do that?
I would pass on what one of my mentees told me. He said, "Don't let your talent take you to where your character can't keep you." And so we have to always daily work on our character. we have to work on that discipline, because I haven't reached perfection at all. It's been a lifetime of making mistakes. It's been a lifetime of going through different things, but keeping my heart open for correction. Being sensitive enough to be like, okay, you messed up there, you did wrong there. Go back and fix it. Go back and make the amends. Go back and say the things to the people that you have to say, because at the end of the day, and people may not even receive what you have to say. They may not even receive your apologies, or they may not want to give you or lend you their forgiveness. But when you can go back and rectify things in your life and do your best efforts to move forward and never live in the past, in the past of regret, and you're developing your character, your talents and gifts that God has given to you, you'll be able to be sustainable, because now you worked on your character. And so I would tell young people, whoever's watching, do not let your gifts, talents, your degrees take you somewhere that your character can't keep.
That's good. That is good. LaDell, thank you for all these years of friendship, of support, and for doing this important work. I look forward to staying connected and doing more stuff together. I'm excited.
Absolutely, man.
I
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Thank you so much. I'm excited.
Me too, man. I appreciate you.